Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. It's giving me like a weird warning. Hey, everybody. You're probably all hearing this.
It's probably true. Oh, here it is, from the southernmost point of Dorne to the lands of always winter. It's west of Westeros and the shadows in the east. I think I did that right. I think I successfully did the Ken Knapsack. This is Casterly Talk. I should have kicked them all out, but instead, here all four people are together. We're rolling with it today, guys. This is the final, at least of the season 2 stream for Casterly Talk. I, as always, am your host, Alden Diaz, that has been with you for the last, and this is the 9th, so for about 2 months now, we've been talking about House of the Dragon Season 2. I am joined by the illustrious Andy, the somewhat honorable Nikki Kumar, and, you know, I was saying this off air, I sent a Raven up to the wall. I said, hey, can you come down? Season 2. He said, yeah, I'll be there. We did not account for travel time. He came on horseback, maybe wagon. It's Ken Knapsack, the creator and executive producer of Casterly Talk.
Look, the King's Road takes 30 days by horse, man. You know? Come on.
Yeah.
That's just from Winterfell.
And you did not do a straight shot. Certainly not. You stopped.
No.
You got some...
Oh, I stopped at the Crossroads Inn with hot pie. I got to get some bread and soup. Come on.
Absolutely. So thank you for making the time, everybody. Ken has returned from the wall. Sir Nikki and Andy, both knighted. Wonderful. And I'm a prince. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, like, hopefully more of a Jaceres or a Lucerys than, you know, some of these other people, like a certain Aemond One Eye. My friends, we are here. It's Ken's first time talking about House of the Dragon in public. We joked about this on Anytime with Ken and Alden, that it's like everyone wants to know what Ken thinks, and it's like, you know, when a celebrity like breaks their silence like on a really controversial topic, even though, like, spoiler alert, really, really full of love and positivity. So Ken, welcome back, and thanks for hitting the music. And
thanks for the I come back. You and I pressed go live at the same time, and I got a warning that said, you've done this too many times, come back later. Literally
come
said
back
that
later.
Yeah, it's like, try again later. I thought, I messed it up. But no, happy to be here. First, I want to acknowledge all the fine work all of you've done. Andy, Nikki, you, Alden, any other guests that have come through. This is truly Andres, as always. This is truly your channel. It's a shared journey, and it's not just about keeping the lights on. These are your lights, and you're all doing wonderful work breaking this down. I love seeing it. So thank you all, Andy, Nikki, Alden.
Of course, man. Thank you for trusting us, and you know, we have expanded this to be more of an all-encompassing.
I didn't say I trust Nikki. Andy, yes. Andy has a crown. Anyone with a goddamn crown. I had to bust out
the formal wear for your return, Ken.
I know. Andy is like truly the most legit, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end, but we're going to start doing here and there episodes that will be specifically marked as having book spoilers. That way we can have our cake and eat it too. So we will start doing, if you know the book type chats, where Andy will pull out all the tomes and plop them down.
I'll dress like a maester for that one.
Oh my God, all the chains.
All the chains,
fantastic. Jared's here. Matty Gunner's here. Will McLean, thank you everybody for stopping by. More people watching that haven't commented. Hello. House of the Dragon, Season 2. It feels like we're in the middle of like this, like, oh, something is ending, it's gone. But like, we also have another spinoff show coming out. We also have Rings for this channel. So we're not slowing down, but this is the end of a single chapter in the Casterly Talk journey. So we'll start with you, Ken, just so you could set the tone right now. You haven't spoken about this at all outside of private conversations. Where are you at? How do you feel? And
I'm excited going into season 3, even if I have to wait 5 years or whatever the hell it is. Really love season 2, and we can talk about my silly decision to just pull back and not talk about it. It sounds like I'm making a proclamation. I shall not speak on this publicly. I've been doing this for 10 years or so, and Star Wars is something I can't necessarily pull away from easily. Casterly just was right for me at the time to do it. And because of that, and not necessarily just because of that, but because of that, I was really able to enjoy this season. I really liked the first season of House of Dragon, but I did find it to be too dour, too dark, too somber, too sober, too stoic, too all these things. And I found myself not even wanting to rewatch it. Not because I didn't, I just was like, yeah, that's there. I know it exists. And then I knew I wasn't going to talk about this show this year on Casterly, and so I was like, I got to do my rewatch. And then I was like, oh, that's right. I really did love the first season. But the second season, I think it cliffed it for me. And really enjoyed it. And I think the simplest way, and I didn't take notes this year, I didn't do any homework this year.
Yeah.
The simplest thing for me is I got to spend time with the cast. I don't disagree with the decision to do the time jumps in season 1. But even on my rewatch, I had wait a minute, who's that again? Wait, what kid is that? And I just didn't feel as connected to them as I did this year, where you spent so much time with them. And I really felt that was a big benefit to this season. I don't think they could have done it any other way in season 1. Well, maybe. But I also just think there wasn't as many plot details to spend a year in with Baby Aegon or something like that. But yeah, so I enjoyed the season. That's an overview for me. I really, really enjoyed it. And as a book reader, as a Fire and Blood reader who has forgotten the book, I was legitimately surprised every step of the way. I was like, ooh, I wonder what's going to go on at Rook's Rest.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember texting you and you being like, yeah, I'd forgotten everything. And Grace and I are crying. Like,
Yeah.
I had no idea. Yeah, it's an interesting point. Like, we'll keep going around in a second. But to your point about season 1, I loved it. I think season 1's one of the upper tier seasons of the whole of it, of all of HBO Game of Thrones. But it is weird, right? Like, Emma Darcy will come up a lot in this, as well as many cast members, but particularly, I think Emma Darcy is like the best actor on TV right now for me. And it's almost weird that I forgot that I only had them for 5 episodes last season. Like,
right.
They left such an impact that I was so excited for them. I'm like, wait a second, we've spent a lot of time with the younger versions who are excellent, and Millie Alcock will come up in this as well. Andy, where are you at now? It feels like forever since we covered the finale. It's been 2 weeks. It's been like literally like just a couple of weeks, but in internet time, that's forever. Where are you at right now? And have you read ahead and plotted season 3 in your mind?
So listeners will remember that when we covered the finale, I said, I loved this episode, but it didn't feel like a finale to me. And I have changed my opinion the more I've sat on it.
You're not allowed to do that. Sorry.
I know.
This is the internet.
I think this is my favorite season of a Thrones TV show, with maybe the exception of season 4 of GOT. I love this season. As a diehard fan of the books, I think watching this season feels the most like reading George's books to me. And I have friends in real life who say I'm crazy. They're like, you're an idiot. The season sucked. And I'm like, I don't know what you watched. I loved this. So,
yeah, it definitely feels like it's been a little bit more divisive/divisive, depending on your pronunciation. Then maybe I expected it to. I know, Nikki, we'll go to you next. And we kind of talked about this the other night, where I'm like, is it worse now? And we're not going to get into like a whole fandom discussion because we're going to talk about story, but it's also like, I had to remind myself this is post 2019, like post GOT season 8, post Rise of Skywalker, post Avengers Endgame. All of these benchmarks of 19, people's brains broke, and we just have to sort of accept that for every franchise. But in a sane world where House Kumar still reigns, how are you feeling now, a couple weeks out?
It's one of those things where I love this season as well. I'll get that out of the way. Like that, like, come on. Like it was amazing. And every time I was on here, I wasn't here every week of the breakdowns, but every time I was, it just felt like we were reporting on just another just really fantastic hour of TV. And I think there's things like, as I've sat with it, there's nothing I dislike. There are only things I'm like, I'm not sure yet how that's gonna feel. I need to see where we go. But but outside of all that, yeah, I mean, I loved it. I thought, yeah, I thought it was as strong as season one. You know, you can pick and choose what you like, but
Sure.
I thought they were just, you know, it's still flying high, and yeah, I think, you know, there's a really weird, it's like I saw stuff, I think post finale, that like from the online people, and I'm just like, this is ugly. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't get it. I don't get where it
Mhm.
comes from. I don't know why it is that way, but it is. And I think that's why I like being here, because we get to sidestep kind of all that. And it's just, and I think, you know, to Ken's point about being able to step back, like, in the end, it's so irrelevant. Like, the noise
Yeah.
is so irrelevant. Like, you can just watch it and be like, sweet, and then I don't know, go to bed. like it's,
Yeah, it seems like so foreign to us that I've been doing, because we all do podcasting, and by the way, I should say I did really casual intros. Everybody here has incredible shows that they do, and they'll be linked down below, and we'll do plugs at the end. But the nerd brain of like covering this stuff all the time puts us in a mode that I don't like being in, but it's hard to shake. Ken, we'll go back to you. I know you have this a lot of like, you watch something, especially in Star Wars, and you're like, I know that's going to be a topic, and it's like, oh, you gotta force that out. And you did that this season for the most part. Like, I would get some snarky Ken texts about like blood and cheese and things like that. Not knocking the work, but just like being like, basically being happy that you didn't have to debate this stuff with people. But no, so just sort of diving into it now, Ken, this whole season, we haven't been doing, beat by beat stuff, as we never really have done here. It's always been more on ideas and everything. And you set that tone with Rachel and Andres and Lon and everybody that has been a part of the show. But because of the camps that we have of blacks and greens, and also occasionally the third camp of free folk / other, or not free folk, lowborns, small folk, it has been the sort of natural way to discuss it, of like, where do you want to start? Do you want to start on this side? Do you want to start on this side? Do you want to gravitate? So I will let you choose which storyline spoke to you the most. And, like, are you, when you think of this season, you're going to think of, bam, this guy or this moment?
At the moment, I think I go to Rhys Ifans as Otto Hightower, and here's the thing: everyone on the show is just setting new standards, I think, for acting. I have been a little critical of Star Wars performances in the last two series, quite frankly. I think some bad directing in that. It's never necessarily the actors' faults. And it was really refreshing to go to this series to have people who had energy coming from their eyes and delivering things. And because of that, Rhys Ifans getting fired was perhaps my top 5 scene in all of Game of Thrones. Andy mentioned this is a season that, in the world of Westeros, just kind of that general term that ranks high for you. I don't disagree with that at all. I think there were some individual performances, and him getting fired, the look, the turn with the eyes, what did you do? I just want to watch that one on replay. So even above storylines, I think the Rhaenyra and Alicent going on these different kind of journeys. Alicent going through this like, I do think I fucked up. Like, what have I done? Let me go for a swim. And then Rhaenyra fighting for respect, even in her own ranks, which was why the Daemon ending was so emotional, I think, and worked. Is her, like, you all bent the knee, but I think none of you actually trust me or want to trust me, and you are still hung up by this society's hangups. So I think her journey through all of that and taking control and pushing when she needed to push, I think, was some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah, just to start with the Otto thing too, because he did have, by design, it's not like a complaint, but he has less this season. He's taken out early, and then he gets
and
then he gets.
I get it, but it's like, God damn it.
Oh yeah, you absolutely miss him. I mean, which is something that you sort of, like, Game of Thrones sort of trained us too, is that, like, you will get really into a story and then it either the character's completely gone or we pivot away. I don't have this opinion, but I'm sure there were people that, like, were really upset about not having the Bran story in that one season, and like, you know, things like that. And so here we're not privy to what Otto's journey has been for most of the time frame. We don't know why he's locked up seemingly just in the mud, like who knows. But yeah, his realization too of not regret in the way that his daughter is feeling, but almost like, oh, did I miscalculate in facilitating the idiot? He starts to verbalize what he misses about Viserys, that he thinks about him, asks him, like, do you never think on your father? Lists all these qualities. And then you finally get like the full mask off, just like it all drops when he says it, my dad picked me, and he's like, is that what you think? It's so nasty. And it's beautifully performed. And you finally got to see, I think, the Greens go from sort of pearl clutching, like, well, we're just doing what's proper. Like, we're just doing it. Like, we're all going to really commit to the bit. Now the Greens not only started to have inner Green feuding, but they were way more honest about who they were and what their intentions were. They were way more upfront with the nastiness. Andy, how did you feel about Otto and just Green infighting?
The Greens were really fascinating this season. I mean, when people say nothing happened this season, an example I gave on Twitter was the Criston Cole speech at the end of the episode. And I said, would Criston Cole have said that at the end of season 1? No, no. His descent into like full despair and nihilism was fascinating to watch. It was the find out season to season 1's fuck around. All of the Greens found out this season. Alicent found out, Otto found out, Aegon found out, Cole found out, and it was remarkable acting, remarkable storytelling, and every member of Team Green is in a vastly different place than they were at the start of the season, and I love that.
But Andy, nothing happened.
I know, nothing happened. Yeah.
Look, I'm just gonna say, people were lucky that I was at my high school reunion over the weekend and therefore was away from all computers and microphones. Because oh boy, Ken and I talked about it. I was like 56 different things that I can list that happened, and I did list them.
It was a trailer for season 3.
Oh, it's just a trailer for season 3. Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, when you look at, you know, what you're speaking to of like fucking around and finding out, it speaks, I think, to the overall theme of transformation and change, which I just loved, where everybody, I think, you know, season 1, the camps form at the end, and we now have a clearer picture of the sides. But now it's, okay, who are you in your side? And Aegon becomes the broken, burnt, sort of like just self-loathing is at a maximum, that version of himself. Aemond becomes arguably the most dangerous person on the continent at this moment, in ways even more scary than just having Vhagar. Now he has Vhagar and the political power to use her however he wants. And they all sort of leveled up to being that version. Nikki, talk to me about how you feel with, you know, these villains, or villains used very loosely because it's all around, but with the Greens sort of all becoming, you know, whatever version, the version that's going to carry them through the rest of the war. Larys making his moves to be very firmly Team Aegon. Gwaine Hightower going through a subtle arc of like, hi, I'm probably the most traditional knight in this show, to being like, Jesus, like I'm pumped out.
Yeah. No, I think just to sort of add on to, you know, the who sort of who are we sort of looking at throughout the series, like the Greens were when I was happiest, like when they were on screen, I was in the zone, because they're to me like the most fun to watch, because they are the hottest messes. And like for me, my character of the season was Aemond. I was just like so drawn to him. He's fascinating. I remember I came on that one episode here where I was like, my initial reaction was a horrendous lack of Aemond, but then like, but then that being like so powerful, and that his shadow was like just over everybody, and they're terrified of him. But yeah, like in terms of them reaching these final forms, or whatever, these sort of elevated forms, it's one of those things I think a lot about. sort of Criston, especially because it's almost like he's in this like I feel nothing phase, and just knowing sort of where he goes in the future, and just off the page, like knowing sort of like where he ends up. I think I'm just even more fascinated to think about how all those things get approached with this like sort of filter of him,
right?
Of this like, does anything really matter in the end? Like just knowing plot points, I'm really curious how those are going to play out now with him in that mindset. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of like a weird thing of being able to sort of look into the future a little bit with these people and being like, okay, well, I know they'll probably do that. I say probably because who knows? It's like that should happen, but we're so informed on them on a deeper level now than reading Fire and Blood or reading the short stories George wrote, 15 years ago or whatever. And it's like, just the sort of, I don't like, for example, in the books, like the finale, we see Helaena talk to Aemond, and we see him with like genuine fear, right? Like he's been struck by something. And it's like, we don't get that version of him in the pages. We just kind of know he was a bit terrifying, as Prince Regent. And so now to think about the sort of steps that he's going to go on with that sort of, with almost like you and Mitchell's freaked out face. It's like, that's like what excites me about seeing them in the show like this. Because it's like,
they're almost like informed the way that we are. I mean, like that's like the whole thing with like the Daemon vision that sort of broke the internet, of them sitting with a knowledge that we are also sitting with, but they have no knowledge of the end game. They only have knowledge of it on a level of the premise. And I think that's been smart since season 1, including the song with Viserys and Rhaenyra. And I think to your point about Aemond, like it's more terrifying when he's on the back foot and he's sort of like, he's such a reactionary creature. I mean, that was one of the most, I think, powerful moments of the season was his mom asking him, like, have the indignities of your childhood not been sufficiently avenged? And now he's thinking about like the indignities that haven't even happened yet. Like he's pre-slighted. And he's angry, even angrier.
They had really good scenes, like just really quickly, like her and
that line was savage.
It's really sad. It's
Allison and him, and especially I love the one in the finale of like, I don't remember his exact words, but when he's like, would you like to see everything like, like, do you not want us to win or whatever? And she's like, not like this. And like that was such a like, just like the skin had been ripped open kind of thing. It was so wild.
Ken, in terms of Cole, we called him Sir Incel throughout season 1. And we see this arc that he's on of like being with Allison at the beginning, lashing out because of his dishonor, being the one that triggers the duel between Eric and Arik. Like, how did you feel about seeing this guy go from being super self-loathing, like all the reactionary, all the lashing out, to just complete nothingness and depression? Did it make you like him more, or were you kind of in the or empathize to him more, maybe?
Yeah, look, he's fun to root against, and Fabian Frankel's doing such a good job of just doing that little face that you're like, I'm going to punch you. I'm going to punch you. But I do have empathy. I've always had empathy for him in this sense. I think he's a character that does not know what to do with his emotions that are very real. This is why, Jorah has always been one of my guys. To watch someone, how they deal with, the friend zone's real. We fight against it. Younger generations fight against that term, but it's real. It's an emotional state of hurt, and you get to decide what to do with it. And Jorah decides it does wrong things with it, and Criston Cole lets it destroy him. He is destructive. That's what the incel thing in real life does, right? It's thick. So it's easy to just put it off as a buzzword, but I've always fought against that of there's no friend zone. Fuck you, there is. It's an emotional state of hurt. It is a desire that's not returned. So that's life. How do you deal with it? And he doesn't deal with it. He just digs deeper and deeper and deeper until the violence almost takes his own life, until the violence takes other folks. He becomes an asshole. I don't think he starts that spot. I think he becomes one. And so I have empathy in the sense of like, yeah, this is what happens when you do it wrong. And I think Game of Thrones has always been a great lesson for Star Wars is about destiny is not predetermined. It's what takes you to the next choice, right? This show is always about, oh, you like the gray areas? This is what the gray areas do. When you don't deal with it, you lose yourself. And then you destroy the rest. So Andy, your statement of him being like nothing, right? He's just this it's so true. And I'm rooting against him on every don't mistake it. I'm rooting against him on every sense of the word. But it's a powerful fall from not even grace. He started as, but again, he's a lowborn. You're over, young Rhaenyra picks him, and you're like, yeah, dude, you got drafted, you got pulled up to the big leagues. Good for you, man. And then every step of the way just keeps burying himself to the point where he is nothing. He is ash. And to that speech, yeah, Andy, you're right. He doesn't make that speech into season 1. I think he uses it to lash out. But anyways, yeah. So when I say empathy, I'm still rooting for his death, and don't remember. And again, so blessed I don't remember anything.
I mean, like to that point too, though. Like,
Mushroom doesn't show up, right? Okay, that's the only thing I remember from the book. So
that you know of Mushroom season 3.
Yeah. No. Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know if that's an answer, but he was fascinating to watch. He was fascinating because it was a steeper slide into nothingness than before.
We'll always have season 1, episode 3, Criston Cole. He'll always be there somewhere.
Yeah, but
can I add a small point to Ken here?
Go ahead.
The racism that he has also been dealing with, the subtle racism against being Dornish, also I think was touched on quite a bit this season. Small little lines, you really had to pay attention to them, but multiple characters around him were making jabs at him being from Dorne, and I do think that adds another very interesting layer and complexity to I mean, a character who is meant to be hated for sure, but is also incredibly compelling. So I mean, I really love that this season too, with everything Ken also said.
Yeah, I think
his struggle for acceptance, like his struggle to feel like he belongs in that position of honor. And Rhaenyra was the person who, when she was young, saw past his lack of birthright, saw past his background, saw past the fact that he was untested, more tested than some of the other people that had been brought before her.
Sure.
But she picked him just based on, I mean, partially because of the crush, but also just the quality of the guy. And to have the only person that really saw past all the nonsense be the one that is now your enemy, that you have all this hatred for. He's both he's obsessed with her because she saw what he wishes he still was, but also hates her. And it's one of those just amazing contradictions that the show does so well. I think. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think like with Criston, he's like the peak example of I'm so not concerned with what a person is or what a character is. I'm concerned with why a character is, and it's like I don't think it's very interesting to like sit around, especially on Twitter, and be like, "Wow, he's such an incel asshole." Like that. I don't care. It's like watching a guy deal, and I say deal more to say he doesn't deal with shame and guilt and all that. I think that is like so much more interesting. I think it's really like boring and surface, like just very surface to just write him off as an asshole. Like it's just I don't think that serves anything in terms of like thinking about it. And like I think like you have to sort of find the empathy. If you like really want to think about these people, you have to say like, what would I do if this were me? That's where you sort of begin to understand them. And I think for that it's just like it's why his speech is so good at the end, because it's like you've seen a guy who broke every rule he believed was right and he knows it's wrong and he's trying to get it back, and then
he spent God knows how many years to try to get it back, and then the dragons just burn everything. So like, what does it even matter? Well, like, well, what is all like, what is honor in the end when a dragon can just burn it away?
What is honor? Yeah, he dies on the ship in season 1 when he's like, run away with me, marry me. He dies there. He is. And like you said, it's I do think this is a character study, and as I know Alden and I text. I'm assuming you text with the group here, Alden, on this, but it's like these shows aren't saying this is the right decision, this is the right guy, or maybe you should love the incel asshole. This is just saying this is a character study. Look, one of the greatest moments in Game of Thrones is Roose Bolton standing before his bastard son, making him my actual son, and Ramsay's like, yeah, that's a great moment, because you're like, oh, there's the rip in the soul. I still want him dead by dogs, but I understand him. And Criston's got a lot of those moments. And I'll say that, like, when he pops up on screen, I'm kind of sometimes like waiting for the next, give me someone else. But in that way of like, he's so good.
But in the way that's like fulfilling the assignment. Yeah. It's never
it's fulfilling the assignment.
You're supposed to, which is another thing. I mean, everything we're saying here, really everything we're saying here outside of like the specifics of the arc applies to Lara Strong as well, who I think had standout scenes in terms of the Greens, of talking about the night he was born and the reactions to his physical disability and the circumstances of his birth, obviously, like, it being at Harrenhal and them immediately jumping to, well, this must be the result of curses, and his perspective was really fleshed out a lot, where I think obviously season 1, again, we spoke about it, like there's the time jump and you gotta finish Viserys's story, establish everything with the camps, but you get looks at what Larys's whole thing might be, the transactional stuff with like the foot fetish and with different things that are going on with him and Alicent. Here this season, you get this like really compelling arc of him realizing that the Alicent power well has been, run dry. Like she's got no sway left, and he just kind of moves on from her and is like, okay, well, I got to put all the chips on Aegon now. I thought he was just on fire this season with his speeches and their dialogue. Is that Matthew Needham, I believe his name is, and Tom Glencarney, when he does the whole speech of not the speech, but the dialogue about how his penis doesn't work anymore, and like all this stuff that's like supposed to be like a little gross, but also like I think it's supposed to give us this reaction of F you, but then as he continues to speak, you're like, oh no. It kind of made me feel the way the Theon stuff made me feel in Game of Thrones, where it's like, yeah, I want Theon to pay, and then you're like, okay, he's paid. All right, he's paid. Okay, he's paid. He's paid enough. Like we're balanced. It's over. Andy, talk to me about Larys and anyone else in Greens, and then we have another like 28-ish minutes with Ken, and we'll talk Team Black too.
I don't necessarily want Criston Cole to die, because I want to see what new lows he can get to. Larys is the character where I'm like, I'm ready for Larys to be gone. Like, I'm done with Larys. I hate this guy. He creeps me out. The disability representation that he is I think fascinating, and it has been interesting to read disabled fans talking about Larys and the sort of complicated representation he is. He is a fucking creep. I think he does view everything as transactional, and as soon as he can't get anything from the relationship, he's moving on to the next avenue, the next place where he can get things from. The team up that he represents now with Aegon, of them leaving the capital together, I think only bad things are going to come from that, and I'm dreading it a lot. But yeah, complicated stuff between him and Aegon and these damaged men, where they make their pain everyone else's problem. And you don't need to be that and be a man. Like, you look at Corlys and how he's navigating his pain is a very different view of masculinity than you look at these damaged men on Team Green and how they're dealing with their pain.
Yeah, I mean, Corliss is perfect transition into Team Black. You know, Ken, you talked about Team Black. You did that very well. Well done. There's a future for you yet in radio. Actually, sorry, it's a dying business. You don't want to cut. But the the whole idea of Corliss's arc representing that masculinity, I think, is super interesting because that's the finale. The finale, it all builds to Corliss's moment of it's not the sea snake anymore. It's the queen who never was. I think it's interesting that the finale is called The Queen Who Ever Was instead of The Queen Who Never Was. I think it's invoking Rhaenys, but it also wants you to be thinking big picture and think Rhaenyra, and even Daenerys to a certain degree with everything that happens in the Vision. Ken, you spoke about in table setting of your feelings of the season about Rhaenyra's arc of like finding the respect in her team and everything, and Corlys is sort of key to that. So let's start with him, Hand of the Queen. Grieving this immense loss after Rook's Rest, and also having to reconcile his position as Hand with his position as Lord, with his position as a captain, and also his position as a father. I think he thought incorrectly that because Laenor and Lena are gone, that he wasn't a father anymore. But the huge part of this season was his other two sons reminding him of his misdeeds and of how they ignored him. So how did you feel about everything that happened down at the docks?
Down at the docks, under the boardwalk. I really, Andy, I like what you're talking about in terms of masculinity, or just beyond just, being a human, being a good, better human. Because when he kind of comes to and sides, takes the position, and he's at the table because Rhaenyra needs some help at the table, especially after Rhaenys goes. Like Rhaenys was killing it. I mean, Grace was so excited on Rhaenys early this season of just being like, "Hey, everyone, shut the f up. This is your queen, man." I love that for her. But so Rhaenyra's got this loss, but to have Corlys stand by the side, but still at the end of the season, he's humbled and stronger for it. Like he is a little broken, not just because of the losses, but that decision to name the ship after Rhaenys. And I know Condell and a lot of the folks talked about it. It's his thing of going, yeah, oopsie, my entire life has been about me, and I'm a pretty good me, and I do good things with me, but it can't be about that anymore. It shouldn't have been about that. One of my favorite things was his son going, oh yeah, you think you're helping me out now, and you're just gonna get away with it? No. Let me tell you what I got to say about what my life was like to this point. You're not forgiven for that. We can build a better tomorrow, but you're not forgiven. And I think in a weird way, Corlys going forward is stronger for it, and it can deal better. I hope, because he's still one of my favorite characters. He's just a striking individual. He's got a presence, both the performer and the character. So I love when he's on screen, and I'm rooting for him in a way. I don't want to say it's like I don't want to always go back to GOT, but it's like it's a little feelings I had with Jaime Lannister, where you're like, you could be better, man, right? But he's just a little bit more on the good team from the beginning. So anyways, I love the journey. I love that ending. It was a quiet ending. You know what I mean? It was a whimpering ending for Corlys, and I think he needed that.
I agree. I think especially when you tie in the stuff about his lack of having an heir, that it speaks to denying what's right in front of you. Like Corlys is very aware of the changes that he needs to make. And Rhaenys has always been upfront with him. And Rhaenys was also upfront with Alan, where she's all but said, I know who you are. With your mom must have been very beautiful, and shows him a kindness that I think we all maybe wanted to see for Jon Snow. But so nice to see it. Nice to see that it does occasionally happen. But it's like, he my son's gone, I have no heir. Oh, my grandson's gone, I have no heir. And hey, Bela, do you want to be heir? And she's like, Grandpa, I'm blood and fire. Like, she's everybody in their own way, indirectly or indirectly, is trying to tell him, look to the people here who have worked hard in spite of the fact that you gave them nothing. And Adam, per magic and destiny and the openness, and he's found his path. But you have Alan right here, who's just been dutiful, even going so far as to put effort into hiding who he is, shaving his head, that way his hair doesn't grow in. And I love by the way, the subtlety of that. They don't have to spell that out for for the viewers and everything, but it's just kind of there. It forces Corlys to realize, like, you need to come down from on high, come down from the legend of the Sea Snake, and literally getting rid of the name, I think, was a cool way to do that. Nikki, how are you feeling?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
We all could believe our own hype, right? You know, and I always warn against that, man. My rules are act like you've been there before, and don't believe your own hype. Like that can the Sea Snake becomes a character you're playing on a podcast, man. Like, who are you really? You're more effective when you know who you are.
Yeah. Nikki, how do you feel about Corlys and the Hull brothers this season, who were, again, some of our new characters? Again, we're not trying to go down the snarky path, but when someone says something like nothing happened, it's like, what about all these new characters that had arcs? Like, so
Right.
Talk to me about this family dynamic and kind of it feels like phase 2 of House Velaryon. Like, we wiped House Velarion's board completely, and now here's the new House Velaryon.
Exactly. I like what Ken said about it and ending with a whimper, because that's like something I think so much about when I just am randomly thinking about this show. And how that ending montage was so dope and so like, oh, we're going. It's we got the lion, we got the Ramin Djawadi cooking, like it's epic. And then you see Corlys's face and he's just like he is somewhere else. He's like, man, I kind of hate it here. I hate growth. It's not fun. And so like I see that and like that's a really, really interesting way for him to end the season.
Corlys was heading toward the ships like Ken on the highways in California. Like, I have to do this, but I really don't want to.
I was Otto Hightower at the end when you're like, hey, you got to come back and do a season 2 retrospective. What?
I like smacked Ken's cage real hard. Wake up, knapsack. Yeah, no, but you're right.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it also plays into another element of his story that goes back to season 1, which is that he's been literally physically injured and was not able to. He was walking around on a cane at the end of season 1, and he's been kind of taking it a little bit slower as the ship's been repaired. Like, there's almost a fear of like, okay, maybe emotionally I'm ready to do it, but do I still have it? You know, am I when the cannons start firing and we're swashbuckling and like, am I the guy? And it would be awesome if season 3 opens with Corlys doing some crazy awesome shit, action wise.
Yeah, he's been at war like longer than any of these people, right? Because he's just been fighting at stepstones. So I think maybe that is an interesting facet where it's like that's kind of been so much of his, his identity to be a fighter and a warrior and sailor and all that, and having to come back to it now. Like, am I fully recovered? Because I'm definitely not emotionally recovered, and I am not. Like, what shape am I in? I like that can all be part of the soup for sure.
Yeah, Andy, jump in on Corlys.
Yeah, two complaints I heard a lot this season were, I'm tired of Daemon being stuck in this castle, and I'm tired of Corlys being stuck at this dock. And I was like, guys, don't you see that Daemon being in this castle that was literally melted by dragon fire and is leaking and broken and messy, and he is doing work to repair it, is a metaphor for his character, and that Corlys's ship being broken and slowly being repaired and slowly being put back together while he's limping around with a cane, and we see him slowly get over his limp while also doing all of this emotional unpacking and work, is a metaphor. Like,
you see, so when Luke looks at his black glove, but he's got the white flap down. I'm kidding. No, go ahead.
Like, guys, these are two broken men who are emotionally stuck.
Yeah.
And they're stuck in these two places that like deeply represent who they are. And they are both doing incredible character work.
Yeah.
To unpack that and to grow and to become better men.
And it's not a coincidence. Sorry, not to cut you off, but it's not a coincidence.
No, cut me off.
Nikki, you mentioned the stepstones. Not a coincidence that we're doing this with the two guys that while Viserys was sitting the throne, choosing peace and caution, these were the two, the Sea Snake and the Rogue Prince. Like,
Yeah.
we'll do it. We'll be the ones. We'll put it on our back.
They're the two myths. Like going back to what Ken was talking about believing their hype. They are the two guys who, more than anything, have bought into their myth of the Rogue Prince and the Sea Snake. And like watching them unmake themselves and then like reinvest and rebuild themselves was my favorite stuff this season, with the exception of the gender work with Rhaenyra, maybe. But incredible character work, incredible acting, and I loved their two journeys. And I think the point of them being stuck in the same place was extremely intentional, and I think added to all of it. So
I agree with you, and I think, Ken, I know you've got about like 15 minutes left, so let's get into Daemon Rhaenyra.
Yeah, well, I want to start with Daemon and piggyback off of what Andy said. Actually, just piggyback off of Andy. Let's just carry each other around on a field. I loved. I again, like with anything, I always try to say, I understand. Daemon's in this castle and he does all these things, and I get it. Jon Snow was north of the wall most of season 2, lost and trying to find himself. I get it. Totally get it. But to the hype thing, to the journey, I think some of Matt Smith's best work. I loved him in season 1. I didn't have an opinion of him one way or another before the show, other than I knew who he was. But I loved what he was like, and everyone around him was like, oh, no. You don't get to do that. That's vile. What did you do that? Like, you're in trouble for that. That was you. You did. And he just kept going, right. And everyone around him's like, oh, no.
Are you saying that he's a comic who bombed? Like, repeatedly?
It's a little of that. It's not,
with a decapitated kid.
Yeah, no, I've been around those legends who take the stage, who are absolutely part of the reason this business has gone on. I've been on a show and one of them literally just did a bunch of stuff, and the audience was just like, we don't do that anymore. And it's hard to watch, and it was hard to watch Daemon kind of be like, oh God, I got to change. And Matty Gunner, our buddy Matty Gunner, checking from the UK. I love him realizing, there's Damon's arc was most fascinating to me, realizing that he's owed nothing that isn't his story. He's part of a larger story, and I think that had a lot to do with it.
You've still got it, Chance.
You still got it. And that's why I loved his ending. I loved it. It was triumphant, and the triumph was, this is yours. My sword is yours. That was great. That was great.
I think that was a key point in our, if anyone wants to go back to our Willow coverage for a show that you cannot stream anymore, but hit me up. I'll hook you up. That was probably your favorite part of that series was the character of Thraxus Borman realizing, I'm a supporting character. Like that was the whole thing of like, and I think Daemon here he's teetering, it's a question that the characters are asking, like, would he raise his own forces and would he become a third entity? Like, would he try it for himself? And he insists to himself and out loud, like when him and Rhaenyra have this marital spat at the beginning of the season after Blood and Cheese, he's like, I'm doing it for you. I did it for my brother. I'm doing it for you. I've always been the one. I've always been the most loyal, and I've supported. But he has not synthesized those actions with the right motivation yet. It's always, I'm supporting you, but it's so I can feel affirmed, not I can help you.
Rhaenyra realizing that Viserys did not tell him about the Song of Ice and Fire is one of my favorite moments of her being like, as he's, marital spat's a polite way to describe what was going on. Her to be in this horrendous moment going, your own brother didn't even think you're the main character. Oh God, that's and him to have that kind of, and had to go on that journey, which is why subtopic. I definitely want to shout out Sir Simon Russell Beale as Sir Simon Strong, who incredible. Was the perfect foil, and those Game of Thrones castings that I love. When I saw his name in the credits, I was like, we got ourselves a Sir here. We got someone good coming. Probably some British theater actor who's going to teach us all a lesson. He was the perfect opposite energy for Daemon, who is haunted. You've got the hot goth girl haunting him, and trust me, that's a thing that can cause you problems. And then you got this just kind of nice old man It's like, we're having dinner. Would you like dinner, Prince? King? Sorry. And it was a perfect energy for that journey for me.
The George self-insert character there, where he's just about good food and good drink. He doesn't care about the war. He thinks violence and conflict is pointless. What matters is if the peas are mushy. And he's also a girl's girl and is going to tell Rhaenyra all the gossip he overhears. I loved it. It's incredible.
It's fantastic. Like from the get, he subverts Daemon's expectations in world of, Daemon shows up, Caraxes on the castle, fully armored, going through with my sword, hearing all these haunted whispers. And then he's like, I'm taking Harrenhal. And Simon's like, okay. Would you like to
sit?
Want
dinner first?
So immediately it opens him up, and you look at, that argument that him and Rhaenyra have, where he's like, my brother was afraid of me, and Rhaenyra's like, no. He was not afraid of you. That's what you're telling yourself to justify the rift. He loved you just like I do, but we cannot trust you. And this was, okay, how do I become this other version and do this Christmas Carol head trip of everything being delivered exactly when it needs to be delivered? And I think it's my favorite storyline of the season. I think the visions and dreams are handled so beautifully, because it's like you have to forget sort of what we know of the bigger picture and put ourselves in the shoes of the character of what we know about the Rhaenyra dynamic. And Rhaenyra has figured it out too, when she says, and I love the dialogue, and Emma, their performance here of, and when I was a girl, I think I could, I'm paraphrasing, I think I could, deal with it when I was a girl, because I was young, and et cetera, et cetera. And I thought that I could change you. I thought, that we were the same, all that. And then to bring Millie Alcock back, and to bring Patty back, and even a new character, but getting to see Viserys and Daemon's mother, all of that being placed exactly where it needed to be. We saw her. He saw her. It was a lot. And even throwing in some of the smaller ones that are just like one shot, like Daemon as Aemond, like realizing what I created, what I could be, the cosplay of it all. I thought it was all handled so well, and it results in this final vision, which I think, as nerds often do, we take it literally, but it's not literal. It's not that he knows that's Daenerys Targaryen, and I know the A, B, and C now of the line. All he knows, you have to look at the poetry of it. Like, he now knows the dragons will fall, but they also will come back. When those two things happen, I don't know. It's important to note that he sees Game of Thrones out of order. He sees all of the season 8 stuff. He sees the march. He sees dead Viserion. And then he sees this young Targaryen woman with her 3 dragons. And it's like something in there is telling him, you need to commit. It doesn't mean that maybe he thinks that's Rhaenyra. Maybe he thinks that's their eventual daughter. Doesn't matter. It just matters that he knows they have a place in the future, but it can be lost if you do not do this right.
He didn't read a Wikipedia article on Brynden Rivers when he saw Blood Raven.
No, all he knows is that, that's one of my own, and he's and seeing Brynden Rivers, he doesn't know anything about him. He doesn't know what Brynden Rivers does, but what he sees is a Targaryen intertwined with the magic. He sees a Targaryen
with old god's magic.
With old god's magic, who's like, oh my god, I should be open to this. I should be open to what I've been told, what I've seen. And I think Condal and the actors too, making excellent choices, like Patty Considine being the one saying, but if we do the second Viserys scene, I should be the decrepit, rotted Viserys. Man, I loved the way that was handled. So, Ken, in terms of Rhaenyra, because I just want to get your thoughts on all the mains. You've been in leadership positions before. You've been in rooms, both in and really all of your careers, where you can see people struggling for power, but also people maybe in leadership positions that have never led before. And then, of course, particularly when it's somebody that's of any non-cishet white dude position that then has to come in. How did you feel watching Rhaenyra's arc from, no one at my small council really respects me, to, okay, now I found maybe 1 or 2 people, with obviously Jaceres, but also Massaria as well, to the end where she is like pretty much fully cemented, and actually visually framed as being part of the mythology, with it all on top of her.
Yeah, I thought it was a big victory for the storytelling. We end last season where you're ready to go, and that's why, again, I always say I try to have an understanding of where some of the criticism's coming. Believe it or not, I actually do. If it's like, okay, cool, yeah, we're ready to fight at the end of season 1, and now we're ready to fight again at season 2. But so much stuff happens there. She's in a better position. She is in a better position herself. We're talking about people. You talk about transformation and change. We're talking about all these characters, in melted castles and broken ships. There's her on her island. I think really finally becoming the queen, and it's not easy, and it not always should be easy, but it was at times frustrating to watch the men around her. You know what I mean? Pretty real world, I would say, but it was frustrating to be like, you asshats, like, what are you doing? Like, you have this person, but also knowing that she. Yeah, like you said, unproven in a sense, because everyone kind of is unproven, right? There's very little wars have been fought during this era. We've coming off this big era of peace, and stepstones are about it, and pirates, and who knows what, and the Knights of Summer are at play here. So it's easier to chip away at her from the inside of like, maybe they're right, and to have her kind of come on over, come through that all stronger. I really enjoyed it. It was some great work, and I just, again, her and Alicent, those scenes, I'm glad they exist, where they sneak off to talk to each other. I love those scenes because it was heartwarming, heartbreaking, bittersweet, and just fun to watch two performers who clearly get along, who clearly are the marketing arm of this show. Stunning.
Incredible.
They're just wonderful to watch off screen, but to watch them have just absolute fun as performers, it was one of my favorite GOT moments in the overall sense.
Yeah, I'm with you on those scenes. I think we all agree, like, those are two just phenomenal scenes, placed perfectly, what they reveal to each other at the right moments. The first one of Alicent realizing the full weight of her mistake and the full context of her mistake, but it's still it's too far gone. There's nothing I can do. To then the end of Alicent, I am at last myself. And I think Come With Me being as close as she'll probably ever get again to saying the truth, which is I love you. And the subtext is text. Rhaenyra is a queer character. This is settled. This is, Sapochnik's wife, Emma Darcy, Olivia Cook. Everybody already agreed on this. And now here it is. Come with me. I'll trade my son for your ascension. And then when we dip, I don't know what Alicent really thought was going to happen post-ascension. I guess not important. Maybe King Jacaerys? I don't know. But Andy, jump in.
No one yearns like lesbians yearn. No one yearns the way a lesbian can yearn. And boy, howdy, the tragedy, the Shakespearean tragedy of this romance with these two characters who are doomed by the narrative. They cannot be together because of the narrative, but they yearn for each other and for this innocent relationship they had when they were kids. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, that's excellent. Nikki, how did you feel sort of about what we're saying about Rhaenyra and what Ken was saying about the sort of the transformation that she's been on?
Yeah, I think Rhaenyra, it's just, again, it's like, I think everything except like everything everyone's already said, I echo. And then on top of that, I think the dragon seeding was really like just a major step for her, because I think it's almost like there's that element of, at least in the books, that uses paranoia for Rhaenyra a lot, like going forward. And I kind of feel like at this point, where that doesn't feel like the same Rhaenyra that we're seeing now. So I'm almost wondering if the way the dragon seeding got a little bit messianic, where they were like, I'm God, like we're touching this, this epic level of power. I wonder if that is the thing that sort of like splits her seams a bit. Like, because they're and especially feeding with already the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy, this sense of being like, I am the one, and now to whatever degree Daemon can support that as well, because now he's seen this vision of her on the throne, and while I don't think the vision is like, I think maybe Daemon might take it this way of like, the vision is the blacks must prevail, right? But like, I think in terms of what the magic is doing, the magic I don't think is taking a side on blacks and greens. The magic is like, you just need to be where you need to be.
The weight of her importance and Emma Darcy making the choice to walk amongst the potential dragon seeds, and Campbell talking about how it's like a religious figure with all the lay people, and
that was Emma's idea, right? Like, that's what he said.
And then the dragon, what are they called? The keepers, the dragon keepers, dragon tamers. When they're like, oh yeah, we're not doing that. You're charting new ground that we can't support.
Real quick, I really like that part.
Ken, we're an hour or so in. You got to bounce in like a second.
I'm good.
Is there
good for
any last things you wanted to touch on? You could bounce really anywhere you want to talk about.
I do. I want to talk about the dragon seeds. I loved all that stuff. There was some epicness. Hugh's my guy. He and I have similar beards and noses, so I'm rooting for guys that look like that. Ulf, I already love to hate. Like, he talk about who's gonna, what's gonna bring down Rhaenyra. Just dealing with that dope. Like, oh god, I can't believe.
I am also anti-Ulf, but Andy and Andres are vigorously pro-Ulf.
I'm Ulf.
I'm an Ulf anti, in a good way. Like, in
but
a
I'm
good
saying,
way.
I'm saying it in the Game of Thrones way of like, you just got jumped up. Again, that's why I always say, act like you've been there before. It's my big sports rule. Like, you're good. You score a touchdown, don't celebrate too much. Act like you're used to it. Ulf is just the opposite of that. I'm like, woo! But I love everything about him. But Andy, what's your big positive on Ulf? I want to hear.
He's a guy from the streets. He like, all of a sudden he's in a mansion with like Elon Musk. Of course he's gonna be acting like, hey, bring me some more of these little birds. Like, you need my help? Oh, millionaires in your castle, you need my help? Oh, I got a dragon now. I'm just as good as you guys now. All right, yeah. Hey, you want me to act more professional? Make me a knight. Like let's start talking titles. Like, cut me my check. I'm Ulf pilled all the way.
Makes sense.
I asked and answer. I asked and answered. I think that's a good thing. No, and
I just think he's funny too.
I think he's. But okay, I'll say this again. It's kind of a love to hate. Like, this season did bring in. Aegon was hilarious in the early episodes of this season, and that was my one big takeaway from season one. My little frustration, and I'll tell you, I don't have any reason for this, but I blame Sapochnik because he's a serious dude. If you ever listen to his podcast interviews, I don't think the guy has laughed at his life. And I think he just took all the big things that he did well in Game of Thrones and I think there was a little bit of a power struggle. I thought season one was had no spirit to it. And it was a bummer for me to try to rewatch it until I got into it. Viserys is great. Him cutting the turkey, like, this is great, and his family's at war, all that stuff. But season 2,
would you like to see the tapestries?
Yeah. You cannot overlook Hound and Arya on their sitcom journey. You cannot overlook all that kind of humor. Tyrion, we immediately fall in love with him because he's just funny.
Bronn and Podrick Payne,
that stuff is needed. And I thought, from Aegon early on in the season, where you do have some empathy, but also he's just damn funny. And Ulf does.
Sorry, Ken. You didn't address him fully as the magnanimous.
The magnanimous.
Show some respect.
To bounce off that, like, late Game of Thrones had a lot of characters trying to make jokes, and I didn't think it was very funny.
Right.
Season 2 of Hot D and early Game of Thrones, no one's telling jokes, but it's really funny. And I laughed a lot this season. Yeah.
I mean, comedy of character. I always say, as a scriptwriter, I've never written a joke in my life because it should come from the character. And this is a great example. That's a wonderful point, Andy, of this. This was earned from the characters.
One of my favorite ones was in season 1 with the heir to Driftmark, and Viserys is like, so the matter has been settled. again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
look,
Like, that's
Excellent.
funny. That's not a joke, but it's funny.
Yeah.
That's the thing
You
is
got-
that Patty is a comedy actor.
yeah.
You know,
yeah,
Patty
yeah.
comes from like the cornetto stuff and like
absolutely hot fuzz.
Mhm.
Like,
baby. Hot fuzz.
so
let's do it.
that makes
and
sense
yeah,
for
I do have to start rolling here in a bit, but I want to be just again, thank you all and anyone who's been on the show and who will be on the show. I'm unsure of my Rings of Power status, other than I can't wait for it. I think the trailers look epic as well for season 2. The discourse is in a different level than it has been, not just with this series, but everything. And it's been I've been frustrated at times. It's part of the reason I need to pull back. And I love the books, and I think you guys should have a book heavier discussion labeled so you guys can really get into it. I've grown frustrated with a little bit. Well, how accurate is it to the books? It shouldn't be at all accurate to the books. These are two different mediums. This is like doing stand up and a one man play. They're different mediums. You cannot do the same thing. And I think that I really love what they did with this show. I love the changes. I love the challenges. Again, nothing's perfect, and we can always have discussions. I'm not interested in those right now, but I really want to applaud you all for really coming to the table with the themes, the thoughts, what's there for us, and having discussions about what work and what works and doesn't work. Great stuff, I think you provide a good oasis in that Dornish desert for people who just want to dig into a show and not throw darts at a show. So kudos to that, and all of you for that.
Hey, you started it. You set the table. You invited us. You invited me. I've loved this podcast for a few years now, since GOT, and used to call in, and we became friends, and it exists in the same way that Force Center exists, to sort of be a little bit more of a Socratic sort of book club-esque feel, in a tonal way. Like it's just like, okay, let's all have a cup of coffee, have some tea, have some wine, and actually kick this around.
Kick it around. Have some fun. But yeah, good stuff all the way around. I'm really excied about season 3. I'm excited about hey Eddie checking for New York. I'm excited about getting a little Sir Duncan the Tall stuff in there. I wasn't super excited about that idea until I saw the little bit of the trailer. I was like, oh, okay, let's do it. So that's that. I got to go eat shrimp cocktail at a party and then do some comedy and all that good stuff. You're the best. So I will take myself out. I'll be careful. I will be careful not to end the stream. I'm just gonna leave the studio.
We'll just remove you. Yeah. All right. Goodbye, my friend.
Bye.
I love you. We'll talk soon. He's not gone yet. He's not.
It's giving me 13 choices. 13 choices. Could you just?
I'll remove you. Yeah.
I'll press the remove button because it's asking me to shut things down.
I will swing the sword. There he goes.
Whew.
All right. So we passed the sentence. We swung the sword. Ken's dead again. Until we bring a red priest in to bring him back for future stuff. But
he won't quite be the same Ken, though.
No, he's gonna be missing maybe an eye, maybe some scarage here.
He won't like 7-Eleven sandwiches as much.
I know. That'd be the worst part. Is if he came back with like different tastes and everything. He came back a Taco Bell guy. That'd be
actually enjoyed food.
Yeah. Ken was, he's gone. He's gone. Yes, we're very, very stoked for Rings of Power. We'll talk about that at the end. We're gonna be covering it basically the same way. You'll have some different people, and it'll be a different day of the week. It'll probably be those Thursday nights after. Probably what I'm gonna do, but we'll discuss that. So we've bounced around a lot, which is the intent. I mean, we're doing a whole season. It's loose. I don't have anywhere to be right now. So let's talk about somebody who has come up a little bit, but I feel like I have to be the attorney for this character, in a certain way. I know, he's gotten some flack. People a little frustrated with him, but I'm going to ride for Prince Jacaerys Velaryon, who, look, man, he's been full of conflict, full of angst, full of anger. I think, obviously, of course, we all know contextually, his brother was just murdered. Like, so he's all that. His baby brothers have been sent off because of the threat of being murdered and the possibility. So he's stuck. He's isolated. He has to, even to do good, he has to rebel a little, to go treat at the twins. He's got to do it in secret and then hopefully produce results. But he's grown a lot. He's become an essential member of Rhaenyra's camp. not just in that he's a good son, but in that he can go and successfully cut these deals. He can go and do these things. But the frustration that a lot of people have had with him, and I do understand it, is that he has conflated a lot of his anger that has been built up since childhood about the way he's been treated and looked at with his leadership in some ways. So, he introduces the idea of doing the Dragon Seed plan, but then it very quickly realizes that it got out of control and that what he wanted was just other people from other noble houses. He did not realize that it could just be anyone, and that makes him feel lesser. And I get why people are mad for the way that he treats Ulf and Hugh, and I don't think it's right, but I do think it is, along with the Jon stuff throughout Game of Thrones, I think it is some of the most realistic, as somebody who doesn't know their father and as somebody that's kind of been through that a little bit, even though he had Harwin Strong, but Harwin was also murdered. I think it was such a realistic depiction of like, oh, you don't have to be okay with this, in a general way. I think once it started happening, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about the fact that Jace would probably have a lot of issues, and I'm glad it was explored. So feel free, either of you, to jump in.
There is a comedy aspect to House Targaryen not considering if bastards could claim dragons, because there is this negative cultural and religious view towards bastards in Westeros.
Yeah.
When Jace and Luke are bastards who have claimed dragons. And I think that's very funny that they were like, oh, we didn't really consider that. Like, Mysaria had to be the one to bring it up. And Rhaenyra was like, oh, I forgot. Yeah, my kids are illegitimate. Like, I think that's very interesting in the way that, like, people who are hypocrites typically don't realize they're being hypocrites, is a very compelling thing to look at. And while all of Jace's kind of pain and anger sucks, and him being mad at Hugh and Ulf for kind of petty reasons, he is completely correct that this is going to damage his claim after Rhaenyra, and that this will lead to another succession crisis. Hands down. He is 100% correct about that. It's the same reason why Catelyn Stark didn't like Jon Snow. It's not because Jon was a bad person, and it's not because Ned cheated on her or anything like that. That is not why Catelyn Stark dislikes Jon Snow. Catelyn Stark dislikes Jon Snow because he looks more like a Stark than Robb does. And with him being raised in Winterfell as Ned's son, it is going to lead to a succession crisis once Ned dies. Because Jon looks more like a Stark, Jon acts like a Stark, and he's got the classic Stark features, and she is worried about how this is going to impact her kid. And,
which I think, obviously not disagreeing with you, because it's that book lore, but I do think we should caveat by saying the show Catelyn does lean way more into it's about infidelity. Because of the casting of Maisie, and because of the fact that the Stark kids visually in HBO's world are not Tullys and Starks, they're kind of a crapshoot. Like,
that's fair.
Sansa definitely, but like Richard Madden kind of splits the diff. Maisie is definitely more Starky there than she is in the text. So I guess it just.
I remember Arya being more Starky than.
Is she supposed to be?
Than Robb,
than Sansa, for sure.
Arya and Jon are in the books the only two that look like Ned.
Okay.
And all of the others look like Tullys.
Yeah.
Sorry, you are correct that book, Catelyn, is a little closer to the infidelity issue. But I'm ride or die for Catelyn Stark, and I'm ride or die for Jacaerys. I think his beef is legitimate. He has really valid points, and he has been screwed over by his mom. And it's the choices that brought him into the world, so he can't be too bitter about it. But at the same time, it's like
he's asking valid questions. Like, did you not
you
think
fucked
this?
me from the start? Like,
did you not think it would turn into this? And
this is a
it's also
bad hand.
It's also isolation, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
he used to be able to share this with Lucerys. He used to be able to have at least the comfort of being like, when he grew up, it was partially in King's Landing, partially in Dragonstone, but it was like, these are not pressing concerns while Viserys is alive, you know? And he's gotten the whispers and the bullying and like some of the mistreatment from people that know the obvious truth, but no one outside of Daemon dare ever bring it up. But it's like, now it is the pressing issue, and he has to reconcile what he's always felt being within and without with his duties as prince and heir, and he's betrothed to somebody who does not have that same problem.
He's had 3 dads, and now his mom's got a new girlfriend too. Like, and again, like, this isn't all Rhaenyra's fault or anything, but like, you can empathize with the fact that he's never had a stable situation, and he is accurately recognizing that this is going to hurt him politically, and he's already like politically unstable. So,
and he's had to play the fool for his own sanity in a lot of ways. Like, he could tell Baela that, or his mother, that he knows Harwin's his dad, but that he can't even fully embrace his own truth. He can't go saying it, because that would confirm all the ammo for everybody that has looked down on him. So personally, he's losing. Politically, he's losing. So I got why he was angry, and there was a lot of internet stuff of, why is he mad when he came up with the plan? That's not what he proposed. Not exactly. It's he thought it would be like they say what Tarleys and whatever the other houses that would be getting into it. So
Darklands.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if Stefan Darkland becomes one, great. He's already a King's Guard. We're distant relatives. Like, cool. This is something that it's like, oh, am I now on the same level as small folk? And what does that mean emotionally? I thought was
like
super.
That's like the whole situation of everything. This is a fear-based political economy. Like, everybody makes choices out of fear. And like that's Jace. Like, it is the case of this, what is gonna happen to me, essentially. And I think it is a big point, the fact that like he's more alone in this season than we've ever seen him. And he had his brothers. One is gone. One is physically gone. He had his sister, wife, cousins. Like, I don't know exactly what they are in the tree, but Baela and Rhaenyra, like, he grew up with them, even to the extent they grew up with Aegon and Aemond and Helaena. Like, he's not been a solo, he's always had probably somebody to bounce off of, and now it's like everybody's kind of gone. Even his mom runs off every now and again, and it's like, I don't think he has a whole lot of a whole lot of options as far as an outlet in terms of expressing anything. So it's probably just going to come out in a not great way, and towards people who maybe don't deserve it the way he thinks they do. So I think he's in a really difficult position.
This was a great comment here from Jared. Does he buy into the Song of Ice and Fire? I think he does, and I think that's part of the issue too, is that it's everything we've talked about. It's all the history. It's losing his brothers via death or being sent away. It's everything we've mentioned, plus the fact that the job of heir became infinitely more important for him a week ago. Like he was just told this prophecy, and it's like, oh shit, if I'm on the same level as 2 small folk that are sitting at my mom's table eating birds, then can I do this? Can I do the thing that my grandpa and mom would do?
I think it's important to note that Rhaenyra didn't buy into it until she needed to use it to justify her claim. And it was around the same time where Rhaenyra becomes a bit of a religious zealot. Like you were talking about earlier, where how like Rhaenyra decides to start like referencing the faith of the Seven and the gods and stuff, and she's like painting herself as like a Targaryen god, which is what like old school Targaryens viewed themselves as, and she's using this prophecy to kind of justify the war. And Jace hears a war version of the prophecy. The way Rhaenyra tells it to Jace is very different than the way Rhaenyra heard it from Viserys. And so this version of the prophecy Jace got is really like a loaded fucking gun. And I think that's really going to shape how
And I loved that difference that you just pointed out. The like Viserys tells her the prophecy with the undertone of, and that is why we do not unleash this power, because we need to keep the realm together for this coming fight. And hers is, and this is why I need to unleash this power because of this coming fight. And it's like, it breaks your heart, and especially because we know that they are 170 years too early. And it's just, and how much prophecy is loose anyway. It's really, really sad to see them have to grapple with the pressure as mother and son. I think they have some of the loveliest light moments too of the season. They, when she says like, they're talking about the Dragon Seed plan, and he's like, well, better than death and defeat. Like, they have a little bit of the mother-son comedy of like, they actually understand each other. And I talked about it in our coverage of like, it made me happy, but also made me sad, because we've all had that moment when you realize that your parent maybe doesn't have friends, or maybe they see you as an adult now, and it's weird that way. That's always interesting too. And it's something that Alicent does not have at all, which was one of my favorite things in the season, was paralleling them as moms. That she can have talks with Jace and listen to his ideas and trust him and be tender and be fun, and be thoughtful. And Alicent's the only kid that will give Alicent the time of day is the one who is sort of never fully present, and we'll talk about her too. I mean, Helaena doesn't have a massive arc, but she's part of some massive moments. And it's tragic to see Alicent just completely, she was undermined by her father and she's undermined by her sons, but they are completely different types of undermining.
Can I bounce off your talk of Rhaenyra there with motherhood and talk about Rhaenyra and gender? Because that is some of my favorite stuff this season. Is Rhaenyra is being like crucified by her council for also being a mom and for being a woman, and they won't listen to her and they won't give her the time of day. And she's saying, let me jump on my dragon and act. And they're saying, no, you cannot jump on your dragon and act. You're a woman, you know nothing of war. And she is so frustrated by that. And then by the end of the season, we see her experimenting with wielding a sword. We see her jumping on her dragon and acting. We see her kissing a woman, and we see her playing with these kind of male coded relationships to power and these male trappings of power, and getting comfortable with that and experimenting with that. And we see Jace kind of getting a little uncomfortable about that. And like Rhaenyra has to send her kids away, but she keeps Jace present, and Jace kind of reacting to his mom taking on these masculine trappings and having to adjust to that, I think is really interesting and compelling. I think all of the stuff with Rhaenyra and Alicent and their relationships to gender this season is super compelling. I think
sword.
Oh, the sword did suit her. Hell yeah. I think Shirako Lohar was a very brief look at that, where like women this season are becoming more powerful. We see Baela running away to claim a dragon. We see Alicent struggling with power. We see Rhaenyra experimenting with it. And then we get this woman pirate captain, and her allies misgender her in public because they're uncomfortable with her being an admiral, but they also recognize she's the best suited to it. And that part was written for a cis woman. The idea was that they were misgendering a cis woman actor because they're uncomfortable with her being a woman admiral, and so they still call her he, him, because they don't know how to like wrap their brains around this badass woman. And when they cast a trans woman to play her, the producers went to her and were like, we have it written this way and we kind of can't change it because the writer's strike, but like, is this fucked? And the actor Abigail Thorne was like, no, this is kind of interesting and cool, and like as long as the script doesn't misgender me and as long as all the marketing doesn't misgender me, like leave the line. And like they left it, and
because it's adding then a secondary layer of this world further, and obviously it's a different continent, but the whole world further doesn't know what to do. They have even less of a handle on it, and we'll see later. Like I'm wearing the Sir Brienne of Tarth, like they still don't know what to do. By the time we get to the next generation, like the titles sort of, and I know that's a real thing in real life too. There is some like Sir gets used in military settings sometimes overall, and you know that's a different conversation. But yeah, the bringing up Lohar, like contrasting that character with Jason Lannister too, or Tylan Lannister, is extremely interesting too, because he is this like money solves all his problems type of masculinity, but like actually can't back any of it up and is lucky his last name is what it is. And here he has this person that he has no concept of who she is, how she has this power, why these men follow her, and is presenting all of these like way more traditionally masculine lines of dialogue to him, like I want you to fuck all my wives and like all these things, and he's just like clutching his pearls and his gold coins, like like it's fantastic.
Yeah, in the Free Cities, it's all about like you make yourself, your name doesn't make you, and Thailand is a perfect example of someone who is like fully made by his name, and him kind of bouncing off Shirako is really compelling. And just like there was so much examining gender this season that I like, as a non-binary person, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was all really compelling and thought-provoking shit. To your Sir Brienne of Tarth shirt, when I got knighted at my LARP a couple months ago, I took Dame as my knight title because I thought it would be really fucking fun to play with that. There's a bunch of cis women who took Sir, so I was like, fuck it, I'm taking Dame. Like, let's go.
It's badass. It's a badass title.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, back to Rhaenyra real quick, and we got some love here. Boop's here, Abigail Thorne. Yeah, Jen, we're going to talk more about Helaena too. Eerie, sweet, kind, and real. I have thoughts on her. Rhaenyra's gender stuff, though, I love how it tied into even early season 1, like episode 4. Millie Alcock has that moment as young Rhaenyra when the guy in Flea Bottom's like, move, boy. And she's like, he called me boy. And like, she gets really excited about that. And it's sort of left there for the viewer to remember. And then later on, she's talking to Mysaria, and she finally says, like, part of my fascination with Daemon is that he's a man.
Rhaenyra wants to be Daemon, and Daemon wants to be Rhaenyra, and it's so weird and fucked up and like interesting and compelling. And like Daemon is so jealous of how Viserys cared for Rhaenyra, and like he feels like didn't care about him in the same way. And it's toxic and interesting and beautiful and sad and tragic, and it's all of these different things, and they all just have weird compelling relationships with their gender and how they express it. And I love the show a lot.
Yeah, and I love that with Mysaria getting so much development and a backstory and all this stuff, how she plays into it, not just for like their romantic tension and sexual tension, but also her connection to these characters that want to be each other. We talked about like in our coverage of that, like Daemon and Rhaenyra both become romantically involved with the same woman independently of each other. Daemon isn't present at all. It has no influence over that. But it's like they truly are this fire and blood of the dragon entity that they are attracted to the same things because they are sort of these halves. Very interesting in that way. But I know, Nikki, you've got to run in like 15-ish minutes. So is there anything that you're like, I came into this to talk about this and we haven't hit it yet?
No, not quite. But I will take the opportunity to bring up Helaena then. because we haven't really talked about her. We haven't talked about the role she's playing in prophecy, I guess. And I guess one of my things, like when I say like things I'm unsure about, because I don't dislike it, I'm just unsure how it plays out. Like one of those is her and this, like the way what she's tapping into. Like I don't know what comes of it. Like it's a very strange like thing for me, because again, like if you read the books, like Helaena is there, right? Like like it's not, she doesn't really play a massive role in terms of how Fire and Blood sort of tells the narrative, and or at least in terms of like her character. I think it's very sort of surface level sort of told, whereas now we're seeing her get involved in the I mean, yeah, like what do you even call it, like just this supernatural side of this world, and you know, to the degree where Daemon sees her in her vision, I mean in his vision, and
it seems like
speaking the line, like she's
also
active.
like she's like everything there is vision, and she is too, but she's also kind of like almost like in a, I mean, Andy, you know, like kind of like in a cerebro-y way. She's kind of, oh, I'm showing up in your thing in real time. I'm live in your vision. Yeah.
And I don't know if the cut is saying that, but the cut is made to like reflect.
Yeah, like even if she's not like actively speaking to him, even if it's not that literal, she might be perceiving that, I'm present somewhere else. Like even if I'm not here on the balcony seeing Daemon, it's like she might be so of that deeper magic in whatever way that she is, that she knows, okay, people are falling into place. Like people are seeing what they need.
Yeah. And like, I'm not sure how I feel about it just in general. Like, again, it's like, I need to see it continue. Because I feel like I was really like digging the abstractness of there's a beast under the floor, you know, boards or whatever. Like, I thought that was interesting. But when she's getting into like, it's like she's being more
just speaking plain.
Plain and like more sweeping in terms of what she's seeing. And I'm like, I just don't know where that goes. And so like it's again not a complaint, not anything. I'm just like, this one is throwing me a little. So yeah, she's been really fascinating to watch this year. And to Ken's point a while ago at the beginning of spending more time with the cast, it's been really fun getting Fia as part of the press tour, because so many of the older Targaryen kids, I don't believe were really in season 1. You know, like
no, it's not really
stuff, right? So like it's been a lot of fun, like again being able to spend time with these characters as they are in this.
She's
a
great actress too. She's just so good. I mean, obviously, Blood and Cheese is like the moment where she has to like push herself the furthest, but
God, it's heartbreaking.
It's horrible to watch, and I think Helaena and Alicent's kids sort of are all part of her, like Aegon being sort of like her malice and not her malice, but her shame and her grossness and her neglect and like all that. Her malice being in Aemond and like the aggressive, dutiful quality and all those things. Helaena, I've described her as being Alicent's heart walking around outside of her body, and Alicent, therefore, because she's not connected to her own heart until maybe the end, she'll like, hey, we got to do this thing, but can never actively communicate with her, can never really pierce it and make a connection. And it's really devastating to see. It's always sad when they're together. And two times of which are in public meltdowns with the small folk. So
there seems to be 3 different types of real magic in Westeros, in the show and in the books, where it's R'hllor, it's the old gods, and it's the Targaryens. And if you had put a challenge to me and said, Andy, give a dissertation on the 3 different types of magic, how they work, what their rules are, and what characters can do with them. I could have done that. And Helaena showing up in Daemon's old god's weird vision throws me for a loop. That is not how magic is supposed to work from how I understood it 2 weeks ago, and I love that it happened, because I'm not angry that it's changing my understanding. I'm fascinated. Give me more of that. I need more evidence. This I feel like I just found a new type of fossil. I'm jazzed. This is so interesting to me, having because Daemon is fucking around with old god's magic in the way that Targaryens occasionally do. That's how we get Brynden Rivers. And Helaena shouldn't be connected to that at all. Her dreams is very Targaryen. She shouldn't be able to just bodily show up in an old god's vision like that, even if it is about Targaryen bullshit. And her doing that without being near a weirwood or something is so interesting. It's so interesting to me. I want more of it. I'm fascinated with what they're doing with Helaena.
One thing
that rules.
One thing I was wondering also is I think, I don't know, maybe this is not factual, but this was my impression. Bran's physical trauma / coma / whatever is what awoke a lot of the power in him. And I almost wonder if Blood and Cheese had a similar effect to Helaena, where it's this insane trauma activated this ability to tap into something.
I mean, there's loose evidence to support that they're not drawing. The camera's not stopping on it, but after Blood and Cheese, her room has all those illustrations of future things, of actual Easter eggs, not in the way that nerds will be like, look, that's an Easter egg, and it's that's just a thing, that's just a thing in the world. But
that's
she
not a
drew
cameo. That's just a guest appearance.
That's just a guest star, yeah. But she draws Daenerys in the fire. She draws Robb Stark with the wolf head. She draws all type of shit that is completely out of time, and it makes me. It reminds us of Bran's training with the Three-Eyed Raven, and how the causal loop of Hodor. How he's Hodor because he was always going to be Hodor, and he experienced his own death as his origin. All that stuff is, I think, something that maybe by the time the Dunk and Egg show is over, HBO's we'll see a full picture of how they feel about magic and all this stuff. It's very interesting to see it all sort of combining in one way. It's we're finding out more about it. Almost as Star Wars fans, we keep finding out more about the Force. Oh, it's also this. Oh, it's also this. And I love that stuff. Yeah, I'm extremely intrigued by it, for sure.
I mean, the ultimate theory that I'm now considering, and again, 2 weeks ago, never would have considered this, is that it's all the same magic. But proposing that feels like I'm proposing the Trinity at the Council of Nicaea. That feels like heresy to be what if it's all the same magic? But what if it is? How else is Helaena doing that?
Is, I mean, not to go down a Star Wars tangent, but I mentioned Star Wars, mentioned the Force. Look at Acolyte. Look at how we've got people that practice the Force. We got Guardians of the Wills. We got Jedi. We got Dathomirian witches. We got these other witches now. We have the Mortis gods. But it's all the Force. It's just, what are you calling it? Is that what they're trying to come down on here? Are there people? Do the followers of the Lord of Light and their ability to resurrect people? Could a follower of the Seven do that with the right circumstances? I don't know.
I always felt like with the Lord of Light thing, that, to support it's all the same thing. Their great other being what's beyond the wall. I don't think they talk about it in the sense of and the great other's there. That is a separate thing. but it all like fits in the same circle. That was kind of my impression with it. So it's like
they're naming the enemy
maybe it is all the same thing.
And we see that, like the old gods, all the old stuff and the Targaryen magic, coincidentally or not coincidentally, are aiming toward the same sort of threat. Like we know that Brendan Rivers and everything happening with the old god magic is training for the same fight that Aegon the Conqueror put on this knife, which is also the same. And the threat behind that fight is the threat that the Lord of Light followers are. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we're all, and even the many-faced god, which is this fourth smaller one that also grants an ability and a power, is also aiming Arya Stark toward that same fight.
Master of Death, yeah.
So that's interesting.
It's very strange.
Yeah,
very strange, very cool.
Like Helaena is suddenly. If you told me at the start of this show that Helaena Targaryen was gonna like keep me up at night with like thinking
to Andy with a pipe,
like a Song of Ice and Fire theology, like I would have said you're nuts. Like Helaena is a nothing character, and this show has done so much with her in such a small amount of time, in such a short amount of time. It's just like, damn, like this rules. This is so fun to dig into and ponder and debate and discuss.
I love it.
I'm all
Jared
about
says, Jared, the 7 is a lie. The drowned god is the only. Get out of here with your drowned god.
The 7 is a lie. The 7 is not true.
That's true.
The 7 is George dissing Catholicism because George has a lot of opinions about Catholicism, and they're definitely not true.
The drowned god is definitely more real than the 7.
The drowned god. Yeah, I know. Earlier there was a comment about wanting to see Greyjoys. I am excited to see them again.
I don't think the drowned god is real. I do think there is something that the ancient Ironborn named the drowned god, and I think it's whatever. Oh god, the Baratheon jester. Fuck. Patchface. It's whatever Patchface found under there. But I don't think it's a god. I think it's something old and Cthulian and weird.
So so there is the implication then that the Kraken on their sigil is a real creature that lives up there?
That is a interesting fan theory.
Because a lot of mythology, like Harry Potter's got Krakens, Tolkien's got Krakens. Obviously, Pirates of the Caribbean is centered on the existence of a Kraken. Like, it stands to reason that in a world of dragons there is one. But
Euron Greyjoy in the books is very different than Euron Greyjoy in the show, and one of the unreleased chapters or one of the pre-release chapters for Winds of Winter, Euron has kidnapped priests of every religion, and he is doing horrific stuff to them, and he's feeding them hallucinogenics, and he is going to sacrifice them and his own baby to awaken something. And it seems like it's probably some sort of Cthulhu-ass Kraken thing. And Winds of Winter is going to be nuts, y'all. But you can read the unreleased or the pre-release chapters on George's website. That one is trippy as hell. It is one of the scariest things I've ever read in my life. It is deeply upsetting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're on Greyjoy in the books. It's nuts.
Nikki, I know you got to run in a sec. Touch on Helaena. There's so much to cover. And again, those of you watching, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Those of you watching on the replay, thank you. Podcast, thank you. This is we're not going to just do this one and then be done. We're going to do a book discussion. I want to do more on the gods. I want to do more on individual characters. There's been an idea for the channel that I've been kicking around forever that we almost did last year, just didn't work time-wise, about specific characters. So there's going to be a lot more talk. We can't cover everything in this, but if there's a last thing I wanted to throw out to you, Nikki, before you go, it's the battle between Eric and Arik. We mentioned them earlier, but that was such a key season 2 moment. It was huge. It was devastating. And as somebody that loves the lore and mythos of knights and of great heroes and everything, to see 2 Kingsguard go at it in a sad way, I thought was awesome. And you and I had a lot of fun talking about how Oh no, it's this,
Who it is?
it's this. Well, yeah, well, Condell said
Even-
this. Well, George said
Even
this.
since then, I've probably like changed my opinion. It's
Then,
like,
but then
Yeah.
the fight coordinator in the behind the scenes doc is like, they have the same injuries,
Yeah.
specifically so we could make these conversations impossible.
yeah, no, it's a very fun thing, and I love specifically, again, just a great change from the book is having Sir Eric be the one to deliver the crown to Rhaenyra, because it was originally Stefan Darkwind who I always found that to be like a massive bummer of like Stefan Darkwind being like one of the real ones and then just getting toasted. So it's like having Sir Eric do that and build that character between the two of them, the twins. That's a really sort of, it's a highlight of the story. It's a highlight of the season for sure. Just watching that all unfold. And I guess also I do need to talk about one more thing because before I go, which is Lord Cregan Stark, who I've been so excited for. We didn't get much of him, but what we got was great. Well, we saw the Greybeards come in. The guys, they're like, give me war. I don't want another winter.
And you
we're
can
doing
tell
this.
that Condell or one of the directors or somebody wanted to throw even more Cregan in because they shot the Greybeards coming over the twins with Cregan.
him. Yeah.
And then they removed him probably because they realized, well, if we send him all the way south and then he has story back north, that doesn't make any sense. But
yeah, I'm fine with that. One change I will like lament a little bit is I would have loved to see more of him and Jace, like, because they bond, like they become boys.
They have gay sex.
There we go. And
it has been said. Like, and isn't there also like the he Jace allegedly might have married Cregan's sister, I want to say. Something like that.
There is a girl who is a bastard Stark that there's no record of, that apparently Cregan and Jace were both in love with. If you read my fan fiction, they made the bastard up because there's no record of her. So whenever they're like, "Oh, Cregan, where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go sleep with that bastard girl." And Jace, where are you going? "Oh, I'm gonna go sleep with that bastard girl." And it was them secretly dating. But
hey, man.
Well, there we go. I'm into it. I would have loved to see more of them and like how they sort of bonded, because I think that does strengthen a lot of what Cregan does going forward.
Sure.
And that
we'll save some of what I want to say for the book spoilers free conversation, but there is also, isn't there a character that we're like, I don't want to say missing because we don't know what they're going to do, but like, shouldn't Cregan's future love interest have already been introduced or something? Like, isn't he with
she could have been, but I don't
what's her name? It's Allie
Blackwood.
Black Allie.
She's dope.
She's like,
but she's not necessary right now, I don't think.
She's got werewood arrows and she kicks ass.
Yeah. When we like start seeing like shit go down in the Riverlands for realsies, I think that's when it's like it'll make sense for her to be there.
The lad,
but I think they
Bloody Ben, we'll have Black Alley.
Yeah, because I think in the books she's at Burning Mill. I think Burning Mill's a little different in how it's sort of like portrayed.
Right.
And I think she's there. But as far as the show goes, I think it's totally sensible that she can come later.
For sure.
But yeah, and so that's one last thing for that. I will say, Tom Taylor, your Yorkshire accent's a little strong. Like, tone it back.
He was like, oh, I gotta do a Sean Bean. All right, I'm doing a Sean Bean. Like,
it's like you're from Texas, and the actor's like, all right, y'all, let's go do it. Like, it's like, okay, I get it. It's fine. It's nothing. You're not fucking up, but it's attached.
The HBO version of House Stark is forever defined by that pilot and by just everything that Sean Bean says and does, to the point where like there's that great viral video of Sophie Turner and Maisie Williams where they're making fun of it. Yeah, and it's like, you ever imagine that you were in a Game of Thrones? Like
that's Scottish though. You're beyond the wall now.
Hakuna Matata. I miss them.
But yeah, no, that's a great thing, and then I actually had something else that I wanted to do, but I've kind of forgotten it.
You wanted to talk about Aemon's naked butt in the brothel.
Oh yeah, Aemon, straight up shirt cocking it without the shirt.
Straight up shirt cocking it. Yeah,
good job. Yeah, I think that's Aemon was a real standout for me. I loved his power trip. It was so like just thrilling to watch. Him calling Larys a toad at the council meeting is like an all-time moment.
Larys thinking he had the job for 2 seconds was fantastic.
Honestly. Yeah. And then something I loved the most about Aemond on his power trip was wearing Blackfire. Because nobody else, like, Viserys pulled it out when he's like, all right, time to get serious. And I don't think
Aegon never really walked around.
Aegon didn't get it. He was just like, woo, yeah. But Aemon gets it. Like, he understands, like, he knows the symbols of power. Like, he understands that, and he always
and also just like it. The way. Oh my god, sorry, Nick, I don't mean to keep holding you, but like we gone an hour 50 minutes without talking about one of the best character scenes and one of the funniest scenes in all of HBO GOT, which is Aegon cannot speak High Valyrian and Aemond is fluent. That is, it says everything because it sets the tone for where they're going, who they are. Of course, it's embarrassing, it's hilarious, it's perfectly acted. But also, when Aemond does take over, that ability to have the Iron Fist that he showed very subtly there of, remember, I speak the fucking language and you don't. It comes out in everything. He's immediately making decisions. He's planning, ending that one small council meeting with, and somebody cut down the fucking rat catchers. Like, he's on it. He knows the job.
Aegon wearing Blackfire would be a joke. Aemond wearing Blackfire is a threat.
Yeah, because even when Aegon gets, I mean, it also just like fun little lore things, knowing that they're making an Aegon show, maybe a movie, and seeing his armor for the first time, and like little things like that, or one of his armors. It doesn't fit Aegon at all. He's getting suited up by these frat bro Kingsguard that Aemond immediately sends to the wall later on.
That was beautiful. God.
Everyone complaining that they're not in the book, and it's like, give it another episode, guys. And they get sent to the wall like immediately.
Yeah, they're just like a brief hurdle that for Aemond's leadership that he has to deal with these jokes.
One thing about Aemond that I was curious if it would happen. I'm not sure if it did. It certainly didn't on screen, but like the way they showed the way he understands High Valyrian, and then picking up the like super heated cat's paw dagger, I was almost wondering if he was gonna like see the prophecy.
I wondered too.
And be able to like decipher in some way, but we appear to have dodged that particular bullet. But who knows? I think it's I think that's like the overall like end statement of House of the Dragon for this recap for me is like, it's like I just love these characters so much. Like and I'm not split by by faction. Like I enjoy all of them so much. And now it's like I enjoy the actors now who play them so much. And like, my God, I missed Matt Smith so much. I turned on Doctor Who, which I've never watched before. And it's like, it's like, like, I'm so glad to be watching and enjoying the show. Like, it's a really like good thing. And I think that's why the level of sort of vitriol that you see online, like it did bother me really quite a bit, because I was just like, what are you doing? Like, do you even like this? Like, why are you here? Because it's just like, like it's such a great thing to have this and to be able to enjoy it. So that's really where I'm at as we leave season 2. Again, last thing, the way people have freaked out about how it's 8 episodes, and like people are like putting like timeline for how season 2 fell apart, and it began with getting 2 episodes chopped off. Like, believe me, I would rather be sitting here tomorrow night watching episode 10 of House of the Dragon season 2, because I want to watch 10 episodes. I want to watch as many episodes as possible. But like, the fact of these 8 episodes were great, and you know, it's like just enjoy it, enjoy the ride. It's good.
Book readers understand the feeling of a character's emotional arc being removed from the tail end of a book because a battle was decided would make a novel too long and is now being put to the front of the next book, because Stannis Baratheon has been waiting to fight Ramsay Bolton for 13 years now with the battle.
Waiting a long time for this battle.
So yeah,
the season 5 finale was like, okay, here we go.
Book readers understand that A Dance with Dragons cutting the end of Stannis's arc and putting it at the front of the Winds of Winter that's nothing new for us. We've been
similarly
here.
with the Siege of Marine, right? Like, Daemon just like cooking, like, okay.
One of my favorite things that I've had recently was a new fan of this world, who my friend Kay, who's only knows House of the Dragon, has just like started it cold. And she said, I was explaining to her just like the loose sort of what was the timeline, what did Dan and Dave work with, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, okay, to put it in perspective, the same year as season 1 was the most recent book. And she said, so the entirety of that first show happened in the gap? I'm like, not even the gap that we're still in. I was like,
we'll probably get House of the Dragon
to finish before. No, she said, she goes, so where did the books leave? I was like, season 5 of Thrones, basically. And she's barring some changes. She goes, how many seasons of Game of Thrones are there? I'm like, 8. So
they didn't quite adapt book 4 and book 5. They but yeah,
it's an ish scenario.
I'll say this: I've been adamant that they're going to announce a release date for Winds of Winter this year, and I'm still banking before August is over that we get a.
Are you ready? Are you ready to be hurt again, though?
I've never believed in anything so much as I believe that George is announcing the release date for Winds of Winter at Worldcon.
Can you provide some
3
evidence?
days?
I'm just curious.
I know for sure I stopped when it was 2014 and he said I hope to have it up next year. I think that was the one where I was officially like, it will be here when it comes, and I am not going to think about it.
If we have 5 hours, I can give you the whole spiel, but just Cliff Note version. Sure. The last time he went to Worldcon, he said, if I don't have Winds of Winter in the hands of my publisher, you can lock me in a cage and not let me out. And he went to Worldcon and apologized. He's like, it's not done. I'm so sorry. He then did not go to another Worldcon until this year, which is in like 3 days is Worldcon. And he's going again for the first time since he had made that joke.
Because that was like a 2018 or 19 joke or something like that, where he said like, you guys can put me in it was a cage, and then I also saw like, you guys can put me on like the island of something like.
So he's going to Worldcon. A bakery in New Mexico got hired for a dragon-themed party and to make an elaborate dragon-themed cake. Apparently for a famous author. Germ lives in New Mexico.
And he's like, my little birds have told me.
My little birds told me. So there's that. Now, could that have been a hot D party? Sure, but I'm thinking that it might be for a book party.
If this time next week we're doing a stream about the announcement, I will lose my mind.
Yeah, that's gonna be cancel your plans. We're streaming.
And then the last thing is when he finished A Dance with Dragons, he had a couple like mysterious blog posts on his Not a Blog where he like had certain author quotes, and he like referenced like King Kong like being dead and stuff. And he has had some similar mysterious blog posts with like famous quotes and stuff. And it very much feels like he is nearing the end of something.
Have I expressed to you, like, and again, I've only read the first of these books, which I don't say a lot on here, but like I should reiterate. And that was when I was 9th, 10th grade. So it's been a long ass time. And maybe in the gap between these, I will finally just like read all of them.
Feast
I-
for crows. Feast for crows.
It's the best
which
one.
I know is
It is the
is
best
Andy's
one.
favorite.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have it within reaching distance, Andy, but if you want to show Nikki what you just received, your birthday
I don't.
present, it might
Upstairs
it's somewhere
in my
else.
bedroom, but
Oh, it's all good.
for my birthday a couple weeks ago, my husband got me a signed copy from Gurm
Ooh.
of Feast for Crows.
That's very dope.
Which I'm
So
very, very excited to treasure. I just sit on my bed and I look at it like Gollum, like.
I am also, with no real evidence, just thinking, because like here's the thing. Here's why I feel bad for Martin, and then we'll start to close out this episode. I feel bad for him for this reason. The second that Wins is out, there will be celebrations. There will be parties in the streets. I give it 72 hours after that before it's, where's Dream? And then he'll be back in the same position. So I have become what Ken and I call a one book truther, where I no longer believe that A Dream of Spring is its own release. I think it will be an epilogue in Winds of Winter or something.
Oh.
I cannot imagine this man having to go back to zero after this wait. I just can't imagine that.
My last bit of evidence for why it's coming this year and might even be in August is when discussing the show A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, he said that he is that by the time they're ready for season 4 of that, he will have more Duncan Egg Tales done. And he said, don't worry, it'll be after Winds is out. And so that really puts a timer on him, that if Winds wasn't almost out, he definitely wouldn't be making that promise, because he referenced multiple tales of Duncan Egg there, not just like, oh, I'll have one more ready. So if he's confidently saying that, it really does feel like it has to be soon for Winds to get out, for him to then be doing more Duncan Egg Tales. So
Crazy.
I could have egg on my face. Worldcon could come and
Crazy.
pass and no announcement. 2024 could end with no announcement. But I've been
I hope
saying
not.
since 2023 that
Say it that much.
the year of the release date is 2024, and the year is quickly passing us by. So,
Man, Nikki, any thoughts before you go on where you're at with Winds and Dream and everything else?
I would really love for it to be 2 separate books.
Yes.
I think the greatest thing that could have happened is if he wrote both of them in this however fucking long year gap it's been, and we'll be able to say Winds is out here and surprise, Dream is
6
out.
months later, Dreams is
Exactly.
out.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
I think that would be the best case scenario. Do I think that happened? No, but I would love to be pleasantly surprised. It's like I stopped worrying about what he says until like a publisher has a year or a date or whatever, because it's just like it's too much.
I'm tracking bakery orders in New Mexico, and you're over there living your best life, just like chilling.
Because I saw
Andy True, like, I serve the realm. Like,
yeah, no, because I saw like people tweeting about it, and I'm like, these are the nights of summer. It's like have they not lived this long to like see the winter as we have? So it's like, yeah, I stopped worrying about it, but I will love it if Andy has called this right, because it's a win for everybody. But yeah, I'll head out now and let you guys wrap up more formally. But yeah,
for
thanks for
anytime, my friend.
having me on.
We will see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, any book lore ones, we'll definitely try to have you back, and then obviously you'll be with me during Rings and everything. So go do what you got to do and listen to Damrod's theme until the show comes out.
There we go. It's go time.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.
So Andy, we've covered a lot. We're at about 2 hours. I don't plan on going much more than maybe 5 more minutes. So is there anything that we just completely missed, completely didn't hit, completely anything? Anyone in the comments, feel free to let us know too, because there might be oh shit, I didn't talk about some people only get a little bit, like Rhaenyra, like Lady Jane, Alice. We kind of talked about sort of in the Daemon conversation, but I love her. I think she's wonderful.
Something I really want to talk about, actually, that we didn't talk about when the episode aired or now, is the cut on Alicent's arm. And I think this sums up to me the entire show. A lot of people accurately pointed out that, oh, it matches the scar on Rhaenyra. Like they are so tied together, they have the same scar now. What I didn't see anyone talk about is at that riot, we see a small person, a small folk person, reach out their hand to touch the queen, and it get chopped off by a member of the Kingsguard. And so I think that scar perfectly highlights two things that this show is about. One, it is about the homoerotic like fate of these two queens who cannot be together, but are so spiritually linked that their bodies now have the same scars. And it also perfectly highlights the privilege of the queen, where, you know, her bad politics can lead to this riot, and she gets a cut, and someone who is completely innocent loses their entire goddamn arm and probably dies because of it.
Yeah.
Like that scar, I can't stop thinking about it. Like, it's so interesting to me how she gets away with everything, and like that one guy, his life is over because of it. Like,
it's fascinating. It's a really, really great way to put it. And to him tying in with, of course, what we see of Hugh losing his daughter and Hugh's wife and the suffering. And when Rhaenyra, you know, we didn't ever talk about this a lot, but we covered it a lot in the episodes week by week, of the ability to sway the small folk and speak to their suffering and try to connect with them is so key in the war. Like, that's when people say like, oh, well, season 2 is going to end. And it's like, we're just starting the war. We already started the war. Like, it's not about that. It's what Rhaenyra had to learn was all the ways in which you fight a war. It's not just count our dragons' heads on spikes like Daemon tried to do at the end of season 1. It's count our dragons, maybe some heads on spikes and maybe battles here and there, but it's also propaganda. It's, are the people on your side? It's, can you support them? Can you feed them? Can you make alliances? Can you treat with people? Who's going to uphold what? And yeah, seeing the complete lack of control the Team Green had, that resulted in things like, you know, it happened twice, you know, during the funeral procession for baby Jacaerys, and then also during that riot. It's so uncomfortable. It's so horrifying, but you understand, of course, why they've been pushed to that point. You see sort of like a little bit of a mean streak come out in Hugh when he just knocks that person out to get his share. It's pushing everybody to the brink. And we'll save this for in full for the book spoilers discussion that we'll do. But there's also a fan theory about the guy that lost his arm, that he will become perhaps a figure for later, a religious figure.
I had not seen that theory. I already know who you're talking about, and that is fascinating. That is a fascinating theory. I'm already picking up what you're stepping in.
So that's interesting. Could that be true? Possibly. But yeah, I love that you brought that up. Other tiny things from throughout, just to touch on. I think that everything that was happening with sort of Bela showing that like she has the fire of her dad, but in a healthy way, I think was smart. She's become reasoned. She's become, yes, we're alluding to the shepherd. Everyone can Google it. If not, wait for future conversations. We're seeing Bela come into her own, sort of step up, not just in the absence of her father, but then additionally in the absence of her grandma, where her and Moondancer become this key element for their military scouting. She's there, she's learning from Rhaenyra, and she's also reminding Corlys, like we touched on at the beginning of the conversation, like that she knows who she is. She's a Targaryen through and through.
I saw people criticize Rhaenyra for sending Bela when she wouldn't send Jace, and I did not see that as I'm willing to sacrifice Bela, I'm not willing to sacrifice Jace. I saw that as, I trust Bela to do what I'm telling her, and to like keep on mission and to not take unnecessary risk. And I don't trust Jace right now to do that because Jace just lost his brother. So
I agree with that.
I thought people had a really unfair reading of that scene. I don't think it's Rhaenyra saying, I'm willing to sacrifice Bela. I saw it as, I trust Bela to do the job and Jace is too emotional over losing Luke right now, and I can't count on him in the way that I can on her.
100%. Jacaerys, in the same context with Criston and Gwaine and everyone on the ground retreating into the forest, he would have burned them through the trees. Like, I do think that he would have been like, why not? Like, because he has that in him, as Rhaenyra, I think, rightfully, she handles it well later, that he is willing to break a couple rules. He does go to treat with House Frey without her knowing. Like
Baela is fine with breaking some rules too, but she was still responsible about it, and I think Rhaenyra was right to say that Jace was too compromised there. So I love Baela. I think she's great. There's not a ton to go on for her and her sister in the book, and the show is clearly expanding on that in really interesting ways. So I'm excited about that
for sure. So I think with that, we've hit pretty much all of our major characters in this conversation. You know, took a whole look at the whole season. Andy and I and Nikki and anyone else that we can gather up are going to do because even though I haven't read all these books, during the production of season 1 and with this channel, we did a lot of explainers during season 1. So I've read a lot of this stuff. I know what's happening. We're going to do some book spoilers. We're going to do some prophecy stuff. We're going to do some magic stuff. And then if Andy's right, we're going to have a party live here on this channel with drinks and food.
Let me just say, Jared is asking for Sheep Stealer in the chat.
Oh,
we can't talk about Sheep Stealer here. I'm sorry. That's too many book spoilers. We'll talk about that in the book stream. And something that fans should keep in mind is season 1 had 81 pages to work with. Season 2 covered 17.5 if you're counting pictures. So crazy. They expanded on a ton for the book here. There's stuff that I like better in the book, and there's stuff that I like better in the show. And it's going to be really fun to dig into that with everyone and to talk about how much they expanded the source material, because 17.5 pages is a lot for 8 or a little bit for 8 episodes of TV. And at the end of the day, I think they did a bang up job with it. So I'm very happy, even though there's 1 or 2 things where I'm like, the book did it like this. But I think they had a very difficult task with only using that amount of page length. And I think it was fantastic, a fantastic season. So.
Yeah, Lauren in the comments. Hi, Lauren. Thank you for joining us. Asking, was Worldcon last weekend? I know.
I thought it was coming up next week, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
Worldcon did just happen. Yes.
Oh, it did just happen. Damn. No book announcement. It's still coming though. By the end of 2024.
It's still coming. What you said was this year. So you're still in the good for your. Yeah. Again, I've joked before. I think I said it to you on Twitter. Like, my dream for wins for comedy purposes would be that it just comes out as a direct market paperback in like airports. And
just tell no one and just
it's a word of mouth announcement. And I think you responded to me, I would go to jail. And I was like, because you would be happy, or you would and commit crimes, or like you would be angry, commit crimes. Like, it's nice ambiguity. Either way,
I would
Andy's going to jail.
I would be speeding to the nearest bookstore. I wouldn't even park. I would just drive my car through the front of the store to grab a book.
Throw your wallet. You could take all of it. You take all the money. Optimistic is the right attitude. I mean, look, we
name it and claim it. We're gonna will Winds of Winter into existence.
He's a funny man, and I think the worst thing he could do right now would be like announcing another like thick writing project of any kind that is not like. You know, you don't want to do another Fire, because he's supposed to do Fire and Blood 2, right? That's also a thing.
That's another piece of evidence for why Winds is soon, is that he pulled all of his team off of Fire and Blood 2 and off of the other side projects, and he said, "We're in the end stages of Winds. I need everyone working on Winds right now." So he did have other side projects with his team, and he did talk about on his blog that he pulled everyone off of those other projects to just focus on Winds. So
quick question. What would a Fire and Blood 2 even be? Because it's my understanding that it's everything up until the end, right?
Fire and Blood Part 1 is Through the Dance of the Dragons. and then a little bit after that with the reign of who I will not say, whoever ends up on the throne post dance. There's some stuff
okay.
on with the reign there, and then
Fire and Blood does not
Part
take us
2
all the way to the Mad King.
No, Fire and Blood Part 2 will go through up to the Baratheon
to Robert's Rebellion, I guess.
Revolution, yeah, Robert's Rebellion.
Nice. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So that's gonna do it for us today. Andy, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find you and your podcasts, and we'll talk soon.
I'm everywhere at a One Hat Town. You can listen to my podcast, Genders, Queers, and Buccaneers, where we talk about Black Sails. You can listen to my RPG podcast called Roll Weird, where we play a game called Monster of the Week. It's a modern fantasy horror campaign. It's a lot of fun. And thank you so much for having me on. You can see me on more Casterly Talk, hopefully. So
Indeed. And then as for me personally, you can find me at that Alden Diaz, ThatAldenDiaz. Anytime with Ken and Alden on Fridays. Links all below to that. Octa Radio, Star Wars podcast. We'll be back soonish. It's definitely going to be back before Skeleton Crew because I'm excited for Skeleton Crew. Like,
looks real cute. Just
like through the moon excited for some E.T. Goonies ass adventures with a little blue elephant. I mean, that's just like, I need that in my life. And thank you, everybody. Thank you to Jared. Thank you to Big G. Thank you to Lauren. Thank you to Jen. Thank you to Will McLean. Just everybody that has been supporting the show and joining us throughout. Haskell, Matty Gunner, David McKay. Thanks to Ken for coming back. We'll see you guys soon.
I'm going to be at Dragon Con for the first time this year. So if you're at Dragon Con, say hi to me.
Dragon Con. Fine, Andy. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was fun. And Ken, Winds of Winter celebration soon. Yeah, exactly. When it happens, I swear, it will be like a full party. Like I'm talking like the cameras will be wide. You'll see food will be eaten. Like it'll be great.
I will wear my Brienne of Tarth cosplay to work that day, and then I will wear it for the stream that night.
People will be like, what are they doing? And it'll be like a book got announced. Like it'll be the nerdiest. Not a book got released. A book got announced.
Yeah.
All right, Andy. So we'll catch y'all soon. And for right now, what I want everyone to do that's watching or listening, leave a comment and let us know what your favorite part of series two, like I'm British, season 2 was. And we will catch you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks for having me, guys.